Thank you, Dr. Kunur, for the very kind introduction and the opportunity to address this audience and this seminar. Thank you again for having me here. Let me share my presentation. I am hoping all of you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me start with today my topic will be about digital transformation of libraries and education. This is a topic which is very close to my heart because, both as a founder of Nimbus, where we build digital libraries, and as managing partner at Sensei Ventures, my whole career has been dedicated to using technology to solve massive scale problems. And education is one of the most massive problems in India. And I'm happy to be able to talk about how technology can help us address some of those challenges. This is just a quick background so people understand what Nimbus is. We build digital libraries for research and learning across different kinds of education institutions, corporations, and even government organizations like Niti Aayog. We work with over 500 plus institutions across every state in the country, and over 5 lakh students use Nimbus today. So, I just wanted to take a moment to address the current situation that we are in. The reason we are doing this on a webinar, and I'm sure all of you have attended many webinars in the last few months, is because of the coronavirus problem. But always remember, and this is one of my favorite quotes from somebody, that, in every crisis there is opportunity, and we must never waste a crisis, because it gives us a chance to think about things very differently, because the paradigm has changed. Today, from today to the next few years, how we will work, how we will study, all has changed. Today, campuses are shut. Tomorrow they may open, but still we will have issues like social distancing. We will always now feel that digital tools have become a part of our lives, and we will use more and more of those tools, and more data will be digital to start with. At this point, I wanted to also, thank Dr. Tripathi for his excellent presentation on digitization. And one of the things he mentioned makes me, reminds me of one small statistic which I'd like to share with all of you, which is that in 1998, which is when Google was born, the entire internet size was a few terabytes. Today we are talking in yottabytes, which is 10 to the power 24, while terabytes is just 10 to the power 12. So there's a massive change between then and now. At that time, Dr. Tripathi talked about storage size and being able to transfer data. So in 1998, the entire internet was smaller than even LexisNexis's entire data set, which was about 6 terabytes. And Dialog was at 9 terabytes, and Library of Congress was at 20 terabytes. So from there to now, we have seen a massive change of how technology has affected our world and has changed how we live our lives. Today, all of us use technology and internet to order things, to find a car, to find a taxi. In this time, we are even using e-commerce, food delivery, all of these services, all of which is built on the same internet, which was so small at that time. So technology has the potential to really change things. But when it comes to the education world, if you took a teacher from 1920 and put him into a modern classroom in 2020, he would still be able to teach. Most of the tools we use in our classrooms today are the same. We still use the chalk and the chalkboard. The point I'm making is that while it is good to have these tools and be able to use these tools, which still work, we must also think about how technology is required in education today. And in this current crisis, we are really facing problems because we cannot attend classrooms. So everything has to be digital. And as librarians, this is a very important aspect for us. Why do I say that? You know, all the size of terabytes that I mentioned, all those services were services used by librarians, whether it was LexisNexis, whether it was Dialogue or the Library of Congress. The point I'm making is that digital libraries went digital far before the internet. We had services, dial-up services to access services like Dialogue long before the internet came about, and we get the pretty interfaces, search interfaces, retrieval interfaces that we have today. So the world of information retrieval has changed very rapidly, and we must look at education holistically, not just the library, and think about how as librarians we can lead the charge of this change in bringing more digital into education. And the reason this digital transformation is necessary is also we must understand that look at students. Students have already gone online, right? Over 90%, I mean, and this is a global figure, I'm sure in India might be higher, use mobile internet to, consume things from Google, Instagram, WhatsApp, various other digital services. And thus their preferred medium of consumption of information is not no longer. So most of them do not read newspapers. They consume online media, social media. So the student has changed, the user has already changed. And given the crisis today, colleges have been rushing to create virtual classrooms. But I think it goes well beyond that. This crisis presents an opportunity to think what is the future of learning, how we can, as information professionals, create a future which is better than what we had before. Give tools to our students, to our researchers, to everyone, which make their lives richer and learning faster and better. In my opinion, the elements which will be necessary for this future of learning is that it will have to be mobile. It can be combined hybrid. What I mean by hybrid is can be combined with physical classes, but must have a digital element as well. For digital element can be consumed whenever, wherever the student or the consumer wants, and it should be personalized and affordable. So to my mind, if we keep these issues in mind and we look at the massive challenge that we face in India, there have been numerous surveys which say that college students in India do not have the skill sets that industry requires. And my humble submission is that while we may not be able to always meet industry's so many expectations, I think we can, if we go digital and we give students the opportunity to learn more widely, we may be able to have better skill sets, and that digital tools to enable better skill enhancement from virtual labs to projects. These kind of techniques should be something librarians should consider, because in the end this is all digital information. Of course it is not the traditional information which we have thought of in libraries. And it is the only way. If you look at the challenge for India, we have a massive student base. I mean, we are at about 34 million students, which is still a very small percentage of the age group of students who can go to college. We are in terms of gross enrollment ratio, we are in the 20%, 24% range, while the government of India has put a goal to reach a 30% gross enrollment ratio goal. Now this can only be achieved through digital means, and in today's situation We have learned that digital means work. We have all attended webinars. We have all attended sessions. We have collaborated, communicated through digital means and found that this can work. It, of course, physical face to face has its own advantages. At the same time, if we have to scale our business, scale our reach to these millions and millions of students across India, and so many who are outside the formal education system, and be able to touch their lives and impart knowledge to them, I think digital means are the only method. And we have already seen how geo and all these mobile technologies have been adopted by everybody. So we have the means to reach them now. With the internet and mobile internet, we can touch the lives of all these young people and make their lives better by giving them digital tools and knowledge. So the students who do come to college, what are their expectations? When you look at it, a large part come to the college because they're passionate about a subject. So they choose engineering because they like engineering, or they choose medicine because they like medicine. However, another large reason is job opportunity. They believe that college is a path to a job and earning income over their life. However, this is not all. And let me share the next slide, which basically, I have heard from so many people that students are not interested in studies or learning. They only think college is a ticket to a good job. But that is not true. As I showed you in the last slide, more students come to college because they are interested in a subject and they are interested in learning and development. So job opportunity is important, but not everything. So my suggestion is that we should consider how these students behave. And when you see that, if you ever been in any college to a good professor's class, he always has high attendance. People use low attendance in various classes to say students are not interested. But how will you explain the classes with good attendance? And moreover, in today's scenario where the economy is suffering, there is a clear lack, a clear fear of that there may not be enough job opportunities for new graduates in the coming years. And this problem needs to be addressed. We cannot just say we have taught them and they have finished college and our job is done. It is important that they are able to realize the value of their learning and their human potential by doing things. And so, what does that mean? I mean, how can we help them? And that's the question which I would like all of us to think about. And I'll come back to it. Before I go there, I just wanted to share one more thing which COVID-19 has taught us. I mean, I think all of us have seen some kind of streaming videos, movies, whether on YouTube, Netflix, Hotstar, some service or the other we have all consumed. I'm just going to use Netflix as an example. You know what Netflix does? It has the high convenience level that I can watch what I want when I want. I don't have to follow a TV program schedule or wait for next week to see the next episode. All of this is highly personalized and based on what I watch. So if I watch an action movie or action serial, it will recommend more such serials to me. If I watch movies in a different language, then it will recommend more content in that language. Moreover, these services today provide very, very high quality of content. And this curation of high quality content has created a massive library of great video content, which has helped us all pass time in this crisis. So, what can we learn from this? The point I am making is that this convenience, this curation, and this easy consumption model is something education can also adopt. We have seen many MOOCs being developed. But it is not enough to say we have a MOOC or we have video lectures available. We must think, what does the consumer want and the student want, and shape the content and shape the experience to that method. Uh, from being personalized, you see, when in a physical class, it is very, very difficult to personalize education. You need to teach the class as a whole. We cannot teach each student separately. However, in the digital method, it is possible for students to learn at different pace and using different content to learn the same topic. Some learners are more visual in nature, some are more analytical in nature, and some have different language abilities. What I mean by that is, today the standard of education in India is English language. We in colleges, we primarily teach the method of the language of instruction is English. However, this creates a barrier for students who come from backgrounds where they are more used to vernacular education. During in the school system, we have far more vernacular schools than we have English medium schools. However, this completely changes in college. And today, with the digital means, we have the ability to provide content in people's native languages more so than we have done previously ever. Moreover, today, if you look at the MOOCs we are talking about, most of these MOOCs are created by foreign companies and foreign professors using foreign examples. They may not always translate to India. I can use the Netflix example because today in India we are quite used to Netflix. But a few years ago, this would make no sense to any Indian that I'm talking about Netflix. Today we have Ola, Uber, but Ola has adapted to Indian flavor, right? And that is why it has worked better than Uber in many ways. And that is the point I'm making, that even content, learning content, has to be using Indian examples that are relevant to Indian students. The content structure, the language of instruction, all of these have to adapt. And given digital means, we have the tools required to both create better content and distribute it better and personalize the consumption so students learn better. So my humble submission to all of you as people who are interested in libraries is that on the left side of this slide, what you see is the library, the comprehensive learning content. Top global publishers, including Elsevier, which is hosting us today, to other publishers, to MOOCs and videos, assessment, certifications. These librarians have over time adopted and put as part of their collections. But my humble submission is the work does not stop there. Firstly, if you look at historically, libraries' primary user was either the researcher or the faculty. But in this COVID-19 crisis, every student has had to fall back on digital libraries and digital content. So the point I'm making is we must not only think of researchers and faculty as our users, but every student in every class being a potential user of the library must get services and content which suit his purpose and his requirement. And this would also have to adapt to his personal ambitions, which in this case for students is ultimately to get a job. So which is why I'm saying that as librarians, we need to start thinking from library to employability. Is it very difficult? Will we have to learn new skills? Will we have to look at new content? Yes. I mean, online classrooms and virtual labs should be something we need to understand and adapt into our library infrastructure. If we have great classes being held online and the recordings, like this, Dr. Kunur mentioned about the recording of this seminar and making available that session to all your attendees, that that content is also part of the library. And for real life skills, experiential learning is the best method. And experiential learning may be based on case study approach or project based learning, working on real life projects. These are all possible even in digital methods. Uh, Most research is done digitally. So if you had to do a research or for a company on the marketability of a product, or you had to produce some content for a company uh, for their social media, all these are digital methods. Today there are so many methods to be, to do work digitally, and that work output can then, and that project can be a part of the knowledge and learning infrastructure of the institution, is my suggestion. And finally, I will come to is the career planning and expert advice. Today, where are the jobs? What do you need to get a job? Interview skills. This is all knowledge. The point I'm making is that instead of defining knowledge narrowly as academic knowledge or academic learning, if we define knowledge as the required knowledge for the student to achieve his life goals at this stage of life, that would be a better definition and a wider definition of knowledge, and thus of what the library needs to support. And why is this important is, if you look at research, and this research is prior to COVID-19 and this current crisis, research has proven that blended learning or hybrid learning works much better than physical only classes. Uh, of course, it works also much better than digital only. So the best combination, research seems to point out, is a combination of physical learning combined with digital learning, because it allows students to learn at different pace. So students who are at the, let's say, the bottom 20% of a class, who are the at-risk students of either failing that class or of dropping out from college altogether. If we are to address these students, digital means have proven very adept at it. They're able to learn content in 50% less time, because now the content is at their reading level, at their knowledge level, and they can find that content as well. And as they progress, they can consume more difficult content. And the end result is that it increases pass rates by 33% for this at risk bottom 20% of the class. And this was research done by the Gates Foundation in all the, for 5 years of all the funding they have done for various digital learning initiatives. Let me now come to how this relates to Nimbus, and quickly just mention about the fact that today at Nimbus, we have a very comprehensive platform which enables libraries to do many of the things that I have spoken about in my session. And more importantly, today we are offering, given the crisis, we are offering free access to the Nimbus platform. And you can all write to me for access to, we have given over 200 colleges in the last, in the month of April itself, over 200 colleges have been provided free access to Nimbus to help them go through this crisis. And the reason I say this very proudly is that in this crisis, in this time of crisis, when we are all wondering what will happen next, to me, digital learning is the best way to prepare for the future. As both as students, and not only as students, but as people in every walk of life. I have personally spent time doing e-learning, upskilling, learning new skills, which I never had the time to do before. We used to be so busy running around. Today we have more time, and we must use this time well to learn the best things from the best teachers across the world. And make ourselves ready for the future. And that is my main submission, that you should be ready for digital transformation, both as individuals and as libraries and as institutions. So I would ask all of you, please make the best effort to think about how digital transformation is going to affect you, your career in the future. Ask yourself, are you ready for this future? Dr. Tripathi talked about how digitization can be done, and it is such an important aspect of any library today. If the library's collection was only physical, it cannot be accessed by anybody today. And in the end of the day, knowledge, the value of knowledge is in its consumption. Just because a book is very good, if it's lying on the shelf, we have derived no value from it. Only when some student or a user picks it up and reads it is the knowledge come in use and thus has value. So to my mind, in the future, this learning, this kind of digital methods have a lot of value, and we must learn them and transform ourselves, not only as individuals, as institutions, for the future. Thank you, Dr. Kunur, again for this opportunity. I've tried to keep my session as short as I could.
Thank you, Rahul, for a very beautiful talk on both librarian side as well for education side. And there are very interesting questions which we are noticing already. The moderator, Dr. Nagappa, will come out with consolidated questions. Dr. Nagappa, please. Dr. Nagappa.
Thank you so much, Rahul sir. You have given and taken all of us to different dimensions, and you have shown how digital transformation has happened. And with respect to questions, without taking much time, we received good number of questions for you. And the first one is from Bhagwan Akpure. What kind of library services we can provide to the users like Netflix? So what I want and when I want it, something like that.
So, I'll ask you to also look at what Dr. Tripathi had shared in terms of his architecture of information retrieval and the library. And even if you look at Nimbus, what we are able to do today with search itself is find information in a much more targeted way. Going further, using artificial intelligence and tools like that, we can understand the user's consumption of knowledge and target the next set of knowledge. When he looks for knowledge again, we can much better serve him. And if you have a good understanding of the user, and so imagine a student in second year of or third year of engineering, and he's doing mechanical engineering. So today, if he searches for friction, that search is going to be different from a first year student searching for friction. Right? So now the point I'm making is what kind of knowledge you want to, what kind of search results you want to show him, what kind of home screen when he logs in. He is a third year student doing mechanical engineering, and today his classes include a class on stress, on mechanical strength. So then the homepage itself can start becoming more targeted towards his probable information needs. And information needs keep changing. I mean, simply every student is, after the end of the semester, he has a new set of classes. So obviously the information he's looking for is different. If it's a researcher, once he finishes one research paper and moves to the next research paper, what information he's looking for is different. So when you start thinking like that, then you will start seeing that on the digital medium, we have all this information, should be able to get all this information. Today, all this information is not in one place, I will say. I agree with you. And it will not come together in one place tomorrow. But if you put a goal and then you put some steps to this goal, we can get there.
Okay. Yeah, there is one more question from Professor Murli from Himachal Pradesh. is there any mechanism to avoid? Because as you know, there are many fake news are coming in social medias, across social medias. So how best, like, no, we can use some mechanism to avoid the fake news and predatory resources in Kimbus platform?
So, sir, I think that's a very good question, and it's a very relevant question in today's day and age. First and foremost, what I'd like to say is that look at the problem. Let's look at understand the problem a little better. Today, students are using lots of social media, and that has become one of the key means of information consumption or knowledge gathering. And that is both a problem and an opportunity. Why is it a problem? Because there's so much fake news, all kinds of rumors, all kinds of fake videos. I mean, even videos can be fake today. So you have this as a massive problem. However, this is a massive problem and it will require a massive solution. It is not something we can achieve very easily on social media. I mean, all the large internet companies are struggling to create methods to catch fake news and remove it. And they have made some progress by sheer tagging of that information and then figuring out who originated it and trying to ban those super nodes which create that knowledge. Coming to from the library perspective or from the Nimbus perspective, the whole point is that of a digital library is that it is curated. And as librarians, you have the power to choose what content goes into the library. My only humble submission was that please consider all kinds of information and try to include as many different kinds of information in your library. However, the quality aspect is something which is exactly what, as information professional, librarians have played that role from history, and the tools are there in Nimbus and many other digital libraries to be able to continue to play that role and only allow in information and which is safe and proper. And that is the great advantage. Instead of asking the student, today what the student does is goes to the internet and starts his search on Google. And then the chance of him finding fake information is much higher. But if we provide him tools where his search works better than Google, where he finds better information, and actually on Google you will not find the Elsevier Science content which you can find in your digital library, right? The paid journals, the paid research articles, the paid ebooks are not available. They are available in the digital library. So, however, the method of consumption has to also be as simple as internet. And then you will see that that fake news problem becomes smaller because now the student is accessing a curated library rather than the entire internet.
Thank you, Rahulji. There is one more question from Dr. Nikhil Gohele. He is asking, like, if we transfer to digital transformation, how much affect our library professionals? Because not all library professionals are good in information technology. I mean, like operating like smart library. They may not be good in using technologies, well versed with the coming up technologies. There may be who are from rural area, but they are getting into library professionals. So in this way, he is asking.
I understand, and that is, I completely get the problem statement you are trying to say. And there are two parts to this, to my answer. Okay, three parts. First part is that, yes, I agree with you. It can, for some librarians, digital technology and tools can be a problem. And they may not be able to adapt to it. However, in that case, I would suggest that they get assistant librarians who are younger and may be able to deal with the digital technology. See, the key knowledge experienced librarian has is the knowledge about his field and about what research or content is good. That knowledge has nothing to do whether it is digital means or physical means. That is knowledge. And if he is able to use that knowledge to make things better, that's the goal. And the tools are just a method, right? So anybody can help you implement the method. Moreover, today's tools like Nimbus are very easy to use. I mean, you know, in these times you are using today, any librarian who is attending a webinar is being able to use some digital tools. You are using mobile phones, you're using WhatsApp. So I would say that the barrier to entry to using digital technology, especially SaaS services like Nimbus, which are very well designed for end users to be able to do a lot of things, is not that high. And I would suggest please try. And we are happy to help you. I mean, me personally, and both as Nimbus as a company, we are happy to help you make that transition to building your digital library. We'll help you build it. The first one will help you build. And as you will get used to using it, you will see how to make it better yourself. It is not that hard, is my humble submission.
There is another small query from Shalva Kumar, it seems from Tamil Nadu. Is there any digital platform which is available as a smart platform which can be like customized, which can be used to customized services by understanding the user needs, especially with the help of artificial intelligence?
So, in the library, digital library space, artificial intelligence services are just about starting. I'll give you examples. So, one, going back to what Dr. Tripathi was talking about, digitization and OCR accuracy. So, there are now very, very good artificial intelligence tools which give very high levels of OCR accuracy. And OCR accuracy has improved because of artificial intelligence technology. On the retrieval side, you will find that search tools, whether they say artificial intelligence or not, actually have been using NLP, natural language programming techniques, for years. I mean, that has been true from 2000. I'm not talking about 2020, but from the year 2000 itself, there was enough NLP technology in most search engines. And it has only gotten better over time. And that's why we use some of these latest technologies in Nimbus as well. Third is the personalization aspect, where you can use artificial intelligence to target the right content to the right user, much like Netflix. I think on this front, the cost of these technologies today are on the higher side. I mean, some simpler techniques, like I mentioned about the third year student, if we are able to understand his third year student, if you have that metadata available about the user, I mean, when you register all your library users, if you also include what class, what course they are attending, then it becomes simpler to do rule-based optimization and not. So artificial intelligence has three buckets. So the oldest bucket is what is rule-based or algorithm-based artificial intelligence, which has been around for more than 30 years. Then we have logistic or machine learning methodologies like random forest, like many such techniques which are machine learning based, which have also been around for a long time. And then we have deep learning, which is neural network based models, which are new, and in the last 5 years, they have really become popular, and they became popular when they actually categorized cat videos on YouTube. So if you look at these three buckets, it's also a question of cost. So of the three, the easiest to implement is the rule-based algorithms, and the most expensive are deep learning networks. So today I would suggest that trying to do the maximum in step one may be overkill, and we look at buckets 1 and 2 for the library platforms. And work is going on in this world in towards these things, but I will not say that anybody has emerged with a really good model for personalization using AI in the library world.
Thank you, sir. This would be last question from the audience side. There are many questions are coming up still. However, I think this is from Rajasthan, from Bits Pilani. Dr. I. Bandi is asking, can libraries start personalized web pages? As everybody talks about the personalization, customization, and all those things. So, is it the right time to go ahead with some resources with a particular web page where we can library can start and reach the like users at their finger touch?
Sir, absolutely. I will suggest you please look at Nimbus. Nimbus enables you to do that today. Please do the, we can create personalized and customized library portal, and not only a generic library portal for your institution, but you can create based on, so for mechanical engineers, you can create a separate way. And for electrical engineering students, you can create a separate way, and social sciences can be completely separate. So today itself, given the what we have, the algorithm-based personalization which I spoke about, is available today, and you must try and use those tools and techniques to deliver a better experience to students and see what they say. And very quickly, I'll share one other example, experience we had, and this was in rural Uttar Pradesh. We were working with the district libraries, the government district libraries, which are free libraries for the public. And, women never used to come to these libraries because these libraries were very dark. At the same time, they had more use for the information because they were not, drinking in the evening or doing many of the things that men do, which, so they could use the library if they were given the opportunity. And we worked with the Uttar Pradesh government to enable that these women to be getting access to a digital library. And, they learned very different things than we expect. They learned how to do cooking in a certain manner, learned new dishes. Somebody started selling food. Another person became started making designs, digital designs. And selling designs for embroidery. And the point I'm making is, when you personalize or you change the content to you suit your audience, you'll be surprised how people take to it. You would not imagine that rural Uttar Pradesh women, uneducated women, will be able to use a digital library and create new means of income. But that also happens. So as librarians, we have a lot of power, and we must use our power to expand the reach of knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahulji. Really, it is really very interesting inputs you have given about how best we can take the transformation from physical to digital era. And this is the appropriate, very apt topic Professor Konnur has selected for this in this occasion. Thank you so much, and I take this opportunity to thank Professor Konnur also for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to moderate both the sessions of 17th May 2020.
Thank you, Nagappa. Thank you very much for a beautiful moderation, and I thank Rahul Agarwal for a beautiful presentation. At the same time, I also thank the earlier speaker, Dr. Aditya Tripathi, also for your excellent presentations. I have received a lot of WhatsApp messages from every participants that they have very well received these two lectures also, including the two earlier one of yesterday. There are some questions about PPT, sending PPT, sparing the video, etc. I still make this repeated announcement to all the participants that the PPTs will be made available to you through our website, and we will place the videos after curation. The videos will be placed on the YouTube channel of LIS Academy and make them available to all the professionals at large in future days to come.